Trash. Oh, man. Trash. Fatal Fury Times Square card. Absolute garbage. Now, I really don't want to make this video. And I don't want to make it because I'm not in the greatest mood. The fights were not good. It did not live up to the expectation. So forgive me, but I'm going to be very blunt. And I like working for me because I get to express my truest thoughts and I don't have to beat around the bush. Specifically with Ring and Turkey, he's bought up a lot of content creators and members of the media. So they can't do this, which is why you're here. For the best in the business, and it's not even close because they have a script or programming and they got to stay within those parameters. I could just be real with it. Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez, terrible fight. Terrible fight. Now, it's funny because some people, they like to play games. I'm not into playing games. Devin Haney won the fight, unanimous decision. He was the rightful winner, but man, was that hard to watch. It was not a scintillating fight. It was not an enthralling fight. It is not a fight I would ever go back and watch again. And it just made for a very bad card. All of the fights, for real, for real. But I want to tell you, Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez, what really happened. Now, what made this a bad fight? For me, I think Devin Haney, and I've already expressed this before, I think Devin truly, I think he cares too much about his image, right? And it just doesn't match. It doesn't match what we're receiving, right? Like, they try to sell Devin as the next Floyd Mayweather and stuff like that. He's not, period. I've never seen Floyd look like what I've seen from Devin, right? And here's the thing. You have Devin's team and what they're saying, it just doesn't add up to me. For example, they'll be like, Ryan cheated, Osterine, he's a cheater. So the result for the fight, which was later overturned, the reason we look like that was because Ryan's a cheater. So if that is in fact the case and you truly deep down inside believe that, then why did your performance look like that? I'm going to say it again for the slow time and the slow people in the back. If you truly believe that you had the outcome from the Ryan Garcia fight based solely on the fact that Ryan was cheating, otherwise it would have looked totally different, then why would you come back? You should be pretty confident. You know, you should come out pretty much guns blazing, look like the same Devin that fought Linares, look like the same Devin that fought Lomachenko, the same Devin that fought Regis Prograis. But in fact, he didn't. And I noticed this early on. Shout out to Antonio Tarver. I think Antonio Tarver, he's the one that's not normally with DAZN. He had, I would say, the best commentary. And he called this out very soon in this. He was like, you know, what's up with Devin? He doesn't seem settled into the fight. Exactly what I noticed. Devin was taking laps around the whole perimeter of the ring. And it's making it hard to beat the boring, like, running allegations. Now, this is a sensitive subject because there's a lot of black fighters or Cuban fighters particularly that they get things said about them even when it's not true. Like, oh, this guy's boring. This was a boring fight. They say that to Floyd Mayweather fights when he's fighting Canelo and he's getting off, or he's fighting Cotto. They'll say he ran, he's boring. Those are stereotypes meant to pretty much condemn the black fighter. I get that. However, there's going to be some people like the Haniacs who refuse to admit when it's true. I get that some people use it maliciously and call everybody a runner or boring. This fight was, in fact, boring, and it happens sometimes. You know what I mean? Like Shakur, when he fought that African Nakathila, that fight was terrible too. Wasn't a good fight, wasn't a fun watch, period. And some people, they would put out like content or commentary like, oh, y'all just hating on Shakur because he's a black fighter. No, it was a boring fight. And if it wasn't, then you don't have to say that, right? So we know when certain people are calling something unfairly, basically saying this guy's a runner boring. But if the shoe fits, there's sometimes where these stereotypes actually apply, or the stereotypes that people try to throw on you actually apply to the fight, i.e. Shakur Edwin De Los Santos wasn't a good fight. Shakur Nakathila wasn't a great fight, right? Devin Haney Ramirez, same thing. So you're going to see, I wouldn't be surprised if the Haneyacks come out and say, like, oh, you guys are hating. This was a masterclass, masterful boxing. I didn't see that at all. Some fights just are what they are. I feel like some people are so focused on trying to drive a narrative where they're not even going to be realistic. Like, oh, you guys just hate Devin Haney, so you can't appreciate the sweet science. Bullshit, because I love Pernell Whitaker, Floyd Mayweather. They were definite students of the sweet science. James Toney. These are some of my favorite fighters who all abided by the sweet science. None of their fights look like that. Even Pernell Whitaker, who, rest in peace, wasn't the biggest puncher. The reason why this fight was bad for, like, I guess for the Devin Haney, like, why I'm saying what I'm saying is because Devin just came out super duper gun shy. And it's like he had cobwebs from the Ryan Garcia fight, PTSD. To illustrate that, somebody made this graphic, right? Out of 224 attempts or, thrown punches, Devin landed 70 punches in a 12-round fight. 70. So I'm not the smartest brother in the world, but a simple mathematic equation, you get 70 punches landed, divided by the number of rounds, 12, you'll get somewhere around 5.8. So that means 5.8, less than 6 punches on average. Devin, he averaged less than 6 punches per round. That is abysmal. In fact, it's so abysmal that it is like the 4th lowest in a title fight, something like that, right? Haney never landed more than 9 punches in any round, Dan Rayfield. Ramirez never landed more than 6. Amazing in his level of wretchedness, right? So these are not good stats. You don't want to be known for the fight where you land the fewest amount of punches in history, right? Now, this whole card was terrible. Turkey, he really set boxing back with this card. It was overhyped. The whole Times Square atmosphere was horrible. Ryan Garcia even complained about it, saying it felt fake. It felt like a pandemic fight. You know what I mean? Didn't have the traditional crowd. You miss out on all this money for this fake spectacle. But more importantly, the fights weren't good. The main event, Ryan landed 66 punches and Rolly landed 57, which is the 4th lowest output in CompuBox history for a 12-round fight. The co-main has 70 punches from Devin, and Ramirez had 40, which is the 3rd lowest in CompuBox history, right? So these are terrible stats. The top 2 fights on this particular card, they didn't average any punches. Devin, for his sake, he's averaging less than 6 punches per round. And he was evasive. He seemed gun shy. He didn't really have an answer. He clinched a lot and never really sat down on anything. So it really makes you wonder, is Devin even the same fighter? Which, ironically, Boxing Ego posed this question. I said, Devin is in between a rock and a hard place. The beating he took versus Ryan, the aftermath, the lawsuit, the public outcries and people trolling him, it literally seemed like all of that boiled up and kind of got to him because he fought such a negative style in this fight and a safety first style that it was not much to pull from positively, right? Now, you can argue Devin won. Great. So he continues on. At least he didn't lose. Ryan Garcia got dropped and lost. Devin didn't get dropped, didn't lose. So that part is good. You would definitely rather win than lose. That's common sense. However, you have to look at the circumstance, because I see the Haneyacks are like, Ryan lost. He's off the Osterine. But Ryan actually fought a puncher off of a year layoff who had a great game plan. You can't take nothing away from Rolly. And I'll do a separate video about Ryan Garcia versus Rolly, what really happened, right? But Ryan, you have to at least give him credit. He picked himself up after getting dropped, and he fought a hard puncher in pretty much the same level of inactivity. Devin, on the other hand, didn't fight at the full 147 and fought at 144, and his opponent did not look as lively as Rolly Ramiro. So they were both bad fights for different reasons, but I see some of the Haneyacks kind of celebrating Ryan's like downfall or whatever, but it's not really much to brag about from Devin Haney, because again, you fought kind of a dead man at a catchweight, and this is what I said. Everything I said came true. I said I had questions about Times Square and how it's going to pull it off, and would it be open to the public? I said all these things before the fight. Then it all came true. I said, what if the fighters, they're not used to that environment? They're cold, it's outdoor, you know what I mean? They had them parking in like taxis and cars and Uber X's, getting out and doing this long walk, walking upstairs, all this stuff. All this was not worth it. You know what I mean? And I said, don't be surprised if you see an upset on the fight. And this is the downside for, if you want to make Ryan and Devin Haney fight in October, you don't put an obstacle course in front of it. Boxing is so unpredictable. Anything can happen. They gave Ryan a puncher off of a year layoff and just assumed that Rolly was going to fold. Oh, Pitbull beat him. Oh, Tank Davis beat him. So he's for the taking. Ryan should ether him. And that's not what happened. Now, for different reasons, Devin versus Ryan part 2 has taken a major hit. I really don't even care to see it like that. They both didn't look good to me. Ryan looked exceptionally flat, and some are even saying he quit because as soon as he got dropped, he needed something big, and you didn't see this gung-ho attitude in them later rounds, championship rounds, like, I got to knock Rolly out. I got to try to hurt him and get something done, right? And to make this card look even worse, you had a very good fight with Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, where both combatants earned a lot of respect. Chris Eubank, he was dead tired and he was just pushing himself. Conor Benn jumped up 2 weight classes and was holding his own and was getting hurt in the 12th round, held on, didn't get dropped. That was great. That was a great fight to watch. But to follow that up with this, where none of the fights really land, and then you hurt a Garcia-Haney rematch, this is exactly what I predicted. And y'all said I was capped. Y'all said I was inaccurate and I was hating. This is why you don't do that. Because now Ryan Garcia, they made the Ryan Rolly fight a title fight. Rolly has the title now. And to my knowledge, he's a PBC fighter, so he's free to go back to PBC. So what they wanted is Ryan to win and Devin to win impressively. Then it's like, oh, they'll fight for a title because Ryan was supposed to beat Rolly on paper and he would have had the WBA title. Now that's up in smoke. So what do? Ryan and Rolly, as a fight, it wasn't that fun. So do you just push forward and say, hey, I'm still doing Garcia-Haney too, when both of them look bad? Devin Haney, his style looked compromised to me. Bill Haney did not have any good advice that I was hearing in the fight with Ramirez. Now, the thing is, Ramirez never landed more than 6 punches. So some people would question, like, hey, Ego, Devin, he didn't land that many punches, but you're only talking about Devin and you're not talking so much about Ramirez. It's because before the fight, I told you, I don't have much faith in Ramirez because he hasn't looked exceptional or elite for some time now. I told you this, right? I said, he hasn't looked dynamic since the Maurice Hooker fight. Josh Taylor fight didn't look that great. Got hurt. Francis Bartholomew arguably got dropped in that fight. Lost to Barbosa, coming off of a loss. And it was at a catchweight, and he's 35 years old. So, yeah, the expectations are going to be higher for Devin Haney because he was the one that should impress. And again, you're going to have Haneyacks who say stuff like, oh, man, he did his thing. He won. It was a masterclass. Again, what is James Toney versus Evander Holyfield? What is Floyd Mayweather versus Canelo or Cotto? If those fights right there that I just named, what would you label those if you think Devin Haney versus Ramirez was a masterclass? The other reason why Devin is going to get a lot of flack for his performance is because he's not beating the allegations. Like, it looked like you're trying to protect your chin. You look like you were afraid to get hit. You look hesitant, gun shy, apprehensive, and you just moved around unnecessarily, burning unnecessary energy. How are you going to survive at welterweight? You got guys like Jaron Boots Ennis. Off of that performance, nobody on this card, T.O., off of any of their performances, Rolly, T.O., Ryan, Ramirez, Devin, none of them could beat Jaron Ennis at 47, right? So it's like, where does Devin even go? Where does Devin go? And here's the other thing. I hold people to the standard that they deserve to be held to. Devin, again, cares about image. So he puts out this stuff. He was saying, Ramirez, you looking small. I'm going to stop you at the weigh-in. I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you. Watch. I'm going to step on you, blah, blah, blah. And then you said all that to have that performance. Doesn't add up. And this is one of my main complaints with this younger generation. I told you, they're typing all this stuff. They don't, oftentimes, they're not living up to the hype and the pressure that they put in front. Devin could have just been quiet, blah, blah, blah. He also came out, I wanted something different. I live in a mansion, so I wanted to push myself. So I trained in Big Bear, and he's doing all these flex muscle pictures, all these things. He even had Sugar Shane Mosley that he brought along and added to his team. Mosley's doing interviews saying, oh, Devin, I showed him how to release his punch and put some snap at the end. Now he knows how to get the knockout. Where was any of this stuff? Where's this Shane Mosley formula in the actual fight? Because, again, Ramirez looked like a dead man. He looked like a character selection screen. He was just like right here, or like he would faint and he would just stay there. It's like he couldn't pull the trigger. And that's not a good sign for a fighter's career. Like, you just can't let your hands go, right? And he just kept doing it. Like, he was following Devin Haney, kind of cornering him. And he just, it almost, I'm not claiming that this is the truth, but it looked so poor and pathetic that it looked like a fixed fight. I'm not saying the fight is actually fixed, but the output looked so pathetic that it almost looked like somebody who has been forced to, like, hey, I took this side deal, before the fight, I got paid, so I can't hurt this opponent. That's what it looked like. You know what I mean? And I just ultimately expected more from the card. It kind of looked like the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight, if you will. And it's just like several fights mirrored that fight pretty closely. Ramirez couldn't get nothing going, and he wasn't even there was like one moment later in the fight where it looked like he was like trying to let his hands go, but then it was such a hard fight to watch for me, bro, because Ramirez wasn't doing certain things that Devin, in my opinion, could have and should have capitalized on, and he could have made a statement and did it intelligently. And then Devin was doing certain things where it looked like Ramirez, if he really stepped on the gas and put his punches together, he could put Devin in a compromising situation. Neither of them was willing, and they were like both non-committal. So it just made for a bad fight. You had one guy who was moving unnecessarily. You've never seen Floyd Mayweather use his legs and just keep moving for 12 rounds. That is so unnecessary. But I think it's the pressure. Coming off the Ryan fight, coming off the pressure, maybe Devin just felt that's what he had to do. But if you are who you say you are and you believe Ryan cheated, which is the only reason that fight looked like that, you definitely should have looked better and turned up. Like, I wouldn't even be mad if Devin Haney fought four rounds like he did and then said, okay, I got a feel for Ramirez. He's not really doing anything and he's not presenting clear and present danger. Let me step to him. Let me up the pressure. Let me triple the jab. Let me go to his body, blah, blah, blah. And then started walking him down intelligently and then try to push for a stoppage. Kind of like George Kambosos' the second fight. But to me, it appeared that Devin's mentality is shot from the Ryan Garcia fight because he already wasn't a big puncher, but he had this belief in himself where it looked like he was willing to engage in the pocket more. But after them Ryan left hooks and the memes and, you know, people talking bad about him or whatever, it looked like he's just like all the way. This might be the new version. And this is what I feared. This might be the new version of Devin Haney. Like, it's hard to believe it won't be. Here's why. Because if you're that embarrassed or worried about getting your chin checked or knocked out, then why would all your fights not look like this? Especially since you've moved up in weight. These guys are going to be bigger. You fought at a catch weight. You fought a washed up Ramirez at a catch weight of 144 and fought like that. You fought like you were fighting Godzilla or Better Biev or something, or Tank. Ramirez wasn't even really doing nothing and had you like super hesitant to really pull the trigger and like remain in the battlefield on the front line. So imagine a Subriel Matias, a Gary Antoine Russell, fight them at 144 and see what happened. You see what I'm saying? So I don't really know where Devin or Ryan goes from here. They both hurt the rematch with their performances for sure. But Devin, and again, some people are, oh, you're being hard. He came off of a tough fight with Ryan, but it got overturned and he said Ryan's a cheater, which is the only reason that he lost. So he should be, wouldn't that be easier to get over if you're saying the guy cheated me and I would have beat his ass if he didn't cheat me? That should be easy for you to get over because basically you lost, but then you didn't really lose because he cheated. So deep down inside, I don't think the Haneys believe that Osterine was the sole reason they lost. You know what I mean? And you got guys like Caleb Plant, a true dog. Caleb Plant, he got knocked out by Canelo. His very next fight, switched trainers and went with Breadman. His very next fight, he fought a former two-time champion, Anthony the Dog Durrell, and got a knockout of the year. So it's definitely doable. Juan Manuel Marquez knocked Manny Pacquiao. It's up to my promoter. I believe, Marquez knocked Pacquiao deep out. Cold. And Pacquiao came back versus Brandon Rios, dropped him in Macau, China, and beat him and Chris Algieri and all these other guys, Keith Thurman later, like nothing happened. So I know it's doable that you could come from a crushing loss. Devin didn't even get knocked out like Pacquiao got knocked out, like Caleb Plant got knocked out. So I'm giving you examples of people who actually were knocked out. So mentality is a must. And Devin, it looked like the Ryan fight took a toll. He looked like a different fighter. Like, put on tape of Devin Haney. You can listen to me or listen to the Haneyacks who are going to lie and try to clean it up like Devin looks special in masterclass. I didn't see none of that, right? Watch his earlier fights where he was full on, like Kambosos. He looked determined. Versus Ramirez, they even got a clip on Twitter where someone fast forwarded it, and it's just him moving, and he's just moving from side to side, not throwing any punches. Again, this is the third lowest CompuBox amount of punches landed between two people. Third lowest. You guys got on Shakur Stevenson's case in the Edwin De Los Santos fight, but now the Haneyacks don't want to say nothing bad about Devin Haney. But when it was Shakur and he wasn't throwing no punches, the Haneyacks, since Devin and Shakur are kind of ops, they went in on Shakur. So it proves that I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close. And these other dudes are frauds and fakes because they won't keep it real. Depending on who the conversation is about, that's going to sway how I keep it real no matter who you are. I don't care who you are. I'm going to give you real boxing, my real dialogue and my real thoughts. So we can't make fun of Shakur Stevenson when he had a fight just like this with Edwin De Los Santos, but then say Devin Haney was a masterclass performance, right? And Shakur, I don't know if it's true, but he said he had some things wrong with him or his arm or whatever in the fight with De Los Santos. To our knowledge, as of me recording the video, there's nothing wrong with Devin Haney other than a lack of confidence. So Ramirez should retire. He looked flat. This is what I predicted. I was like, I don't see why you guys are like rocking with Ramirez so tough because he hasn't looked good in several fights. I told y'all that. I told you it was going to be upset on this card, and this is why you don't plan ahead and, look past the rollies and things like that. But both Devin and Ryan hurt the rematch for sure with their performances. Devin Haney, Jose Ramirez, trash fight, and that's what really happened.